So this is the first plant that I've come across on my walk today, and it's colt's foot. And it's a beautiful wildflower that looks quite similar to dandelion, but it's got these alien type structures and heads that kind of hang down and arch over. And they do look a little bit creepy. You can see these little yellow flowers that could be mistaken for dandelion. But if we look at the stem here, we can see they've got these little kind of papery bracts left on the stem. What's interesting about colt's foot is that it flowers before the leaves appear. So this plant here would have flowered a little while ago, and this one here, once these flowers die back, the leaves will start to grow. The leaves are pretty distinctive. They've got quite a soft feel to the top of them with this kind of downy sort of, I don't know, kind of looks a little bit like cotton on the top of it. These downy sort of little hairs that can be rubbed off to reveal more of a waxy feel to the leaf. And then when we turn it over, it's absolutely covered in a dense mat of hairs. Although some sources do caution that colt's foot can be toxic if used in large doses, it has been used as both a food and medicine for hundreds of years. Colt's foot flowers can be eaten raw or cooked, and the leaves can also be used fresh or dried and made into a herbal tea. Colt's foot could be prepared into remedies to treat lots of different illnesses, the most common one being chest complaints. And actually in England we have a traditional herbal sweet called the colt's foot rock that helps to treat coughs and colds, and you can still find it in most traditional English sweet shops. These are also called coughwort, and plants that have got the suffix of wort in their names were generally used as a traditional herbal medicine, and these were usually used as treatments for whatever the prefix of the name was. So for example, coughwort, because these were used for respiratory illnesses. So yeah, that's a good little tip for finding out whether a plant might be medicinal or not. So this bee fly is feeding on ground ivy, and I don't blame him because this little plant is delicious. It has a taste somewhere between all of the herbs, kind of sagey with a hint of mint, a little bit of thyme in there, kind of a little bit of rosemary sometimes. It's a member of the mint family, and again it has a square stem with leaves that grow in opposite pairs, usually in whorls of between 2 and 4 leaves. The leaves are kidney shaped with a rounded serration at the edges. Yeah, it's a delicious plant that I think is absolutely delicious on roast potatoes. Probably the best use for it. But it's also really good ground up. Look at all these little bugs on it. The flavour, in my opinion, is even nicer when it's dried and ground. And then I can just use it as kind of a malty herb seasoning. And the flowers are actually pretty sweet, as you can probably tell by all of the bugs on them. The flowers are usually a purple, lilac, mauve colour, and the flowers are tubular, which is why that bee fly loved it, because it can get its little snout right in there. And you can use this as incense. It can be dried and used as incense, and it was used for divination as well. So people used to use this to see if other people were using magic against you. That's quite cool. And some cute little wild pansies down here. They're very tiny. These are gorgeous little flowers, and they're edible too, but I don't harvest them because I grow pansies in my own garden, and I never seem to find them in abundance, so I leave them for the bees. Such a cute little flower. This field is blanketed with this really pretty little wildflower. This is the dove's foot cranesbill, and it's a really beautiful little wildflower. And if you're a gardener, then you might be familiar with the shape of these leaves. And it's a type of geranium. It's edible, not too much of a flavour, so you can kind of just add it to your salads to pretty up your plates and things like that. Hello. Just down next to the pansies, I found some mouse ear chickweed, and this is another lovely little wild edible. If can use it just the same as chickweed, but it does have slightly little downy hairs on the leaf surface and also on the stem as well. So if you don't like that texture, they're best off with a quick little blanch first. So we've seen Mouse's chickweed. This is common chickweed. And this is another delicious edible, and it kind of tastes just like spinach, really. When it flowers, it's got really dainty little white flowers with 5 tiny petals that are really deeply notched to look like 10 petals. And the leaves grow in opposing pairs with little stalks that come out of the little leaf joins there. Chickweed is actually an anti-inflammatory and it helps to heal and soothe the skin, so it's a really great plant to use as a fresh poultice on wounds. It also helps to close enlarged pores, so it's really great use as a face mask. I've just found an old little larch rose from the larch tree. In my New Forest foraging video I showed you the immature pine cone after the rose had fallen off, but these are the little roses, and these can be pickled and turned into a syrup as well. They have a really lovely kind of citrusy flavour, just like the young leaves, which there's a little broken branch down here that I'll show you. This is the larch tree, and you can tell the larch tree from other conifers because it's got these beautiful little clusters of really soft needles. They're super soft, and if you give one a little nibble, you'll find that it's got a lovely zingy citrusy type flavour. These little things are awesome just steeped in water for a tea, and you can also just eat them as you're on your walks as well because they've got a really delicious kind of flavour. There's some water mint down there and watercress just there. Just come to this little stream. Oh, don't slip, Danny. Oh God, there's some watercress down there. Can you see it? Lovely patch of watercress. There's loads of it along this little bank here. You can see it more down there. God, I'm slipping down. Oh, I'm falling. It's often one that you can find when wild garlic seems to be a bit elusive, because this is really common and it's really not fussy at all where it grows. Even though its common name is Jack by the hedge, it often grows in damp spots as well, like down here by the river. It grows all along pathways and wastelands, parks, gardens, allotments and things like that. The roots of hedge garlic are also delicious, but it is illegal to uproot plants unless you have the landowner's permission, so do be mindful of that when you're foraging. Lots and lots of elderflower buds all about to pop open in the next couple of weeks. Absolutely love elderflower season. Going to be making lots and lots of cordials and champagnes for the summer. This beautiful plant here is Alexander's, and I'm really stoked to see it because I don't often find it up north. You usually find it by the coast and it's quite common down south, but I don't come across it too often up here in Sheffield. So I've just found quite a few plants up this little pathway here, so I'm going to take some of this home. It's a great edible, and actually it was a really popular plant here in England before we started cultivating celery instead. So it has got quite a nice celery type flavour and texture as well. So it's this stem here that you harvest, and it's pretty easy to identify because it's got a really thick celery-like stem, and the join where the flower stem shoots up from is covered in this kind of succulent shaft that's got quite pretty kind of candy striped markings on it. And the flowers grow in umbels as part of the Apiaceae family or the Elderflower family, and they've got these beautiful pom-pom flowers. I'm actually going to harvest some of this Alexander's today. I'm going to cut it all the way down here because I can show you what the stem looks like inside. So the stem is hollow. Oh, let me get this leaf out of the way. So yeah, as you can see, the stem is hollow, and I want to, when I get home, I'm going to be peeling this. So this is the little chunk that I'm taking home with me. So you can see the inside of the stem is hollow, and it's got quite a thick outer layer that is best off being peeled before eating. It can be eaten raw, this, and it can be cooked as well, so however you prefer it. Just spotted a little animal track down to this little body of water. See if we can find anything down here. It looks like this is another one of their runs here that goes straight down and then back up through the woodlands. I love finding animal tracks. There's so much to look for when you're going out for a walk, and I feel like in this country going for a walk is very much just, I don't know, a quick walk the dog around the local woodlands. But there's just so much to see. There's plants to discover, there's mushrooms to find, there's animals to track down. And yeah, it's just a complete sensory experience coming for a walk. When you really go for a walk, you know. I mean, like spending a good few hours out in the woods or in the fields or in the hedgerows and really just stopping and taking it all in. Noticing how the leaves rustle in the wind and how the light gets picked up from a blade of grass. And yeah, it's just slowing down, I think, and taking the time to really look around you and notice the little things. It just makes you feel all the better for it. Oh, I love seeing this one. It always brings back memories. This is greatest stitchwort, and I used to love this as a kid because when you used to step on the seeds, or actually even on just like a hot summer's day, you could hear the seeds popping, and we used to call them granny crackers. But it's a really cute little plant, and it's got lots of uses actually. It's another one that's an anti-inflammatory, so it's really, really good for healing and soothing, and an ointment or a balm can be made from the fresh leaves. It can be used for eczema and insect bites and rashes and things like that. It's also an edible wildflower, so you can add these pretty little petals to your salads and your dishes. The flower's quite distinctive. It looks like it's got 10 petals, but it's actually 5 really, really deeply notched petals. The stem is super fragile and it can be snapped really, really easily. And as I said earlier, names with wort as the suffix of the name is often used as a medicinal plant. So stitchwort was actually used once to relieve stitches, so the stitch that you get from running or walking too far. This one is such a cute little plant that really does earn its common name of spring beauty. Its Latin name, I think, is Claytonia perfoliata, and it's a really, really lovely wild edible that's not an English native, but you can find it across most of the country. And you can use it as kind of a lettuce or spinach substitute. It's a really easy one to identify. They've got these really fleshy, succulent, almost circular leaves. And when the plant's in flower, the flower seems to emerge kind of from the centre of the leaf, and it's really, really cute. Here she is. This is pink purslane, also known as Siberian spring beauty or Claytonia siberica. And you can see that it looks fairly similar to the miner's lettuce, but you can see how it's got 2 distinct leaves, whereas on the spring beauty that I just showed you, it has 1 complete kind of leaf, which is actually 2 leaves fused together still, but the fusion is more complete. Whereas on this pink purslane, you can quite clearly see that there's 2 distinct leaves. You can see that they are still fused together, but the fusion is more complete on the spring beauty than it is on this pink purslane here. The flowers are also much bigger and they are a lot pinker as well. So the flowers on the spring beauty are very, very dainty and they're white, whereas the flowers on this pink purslane have got a really delicate kind of pink hue to them. Both of them are edible and both of them are delicious, so it doesn't really matter which one that you find, you can use both of them just the same. Apple flowers are one of my absolute favourite tree blossoms because they're really, really great for using as a tea after dinner to help improve digestion. They're also really good for helping to clear acne and helping to soothe cramps around menstruation as well. Apple flowers are delicious as well, and they make a really nice addition to jams and jellies. You can make a syrup with them, and they're also really nice just used as a garnish on top of your desserts. They give a nice little citrusy tang. Wow, have you ever seen a more impressive patch of Comfrey than this? It goes for miles, oh my gosh. I love Comfrey. I use it in my garden, in my allotment all the time. It's one of the staples of my garden actually. I underplant every single fruit tree with Comfrey because it's got really, really long tapped roots that help to draw the nutrients right from the bottom of the soil and make that more available to my fruit trees. It's really, really great as a chop and drop mulch as well, and I use it to make a rich compost tea with to water my plants with. It's just an all-round great plant, Comfrey. Those sounds are amazing.